I think how we're going to start this is I'm just going to give you guys some quick background about who we are and the product, and then try to make it brief, because I know probably most of you have been to our website or seen the things that we've shared with you about the new marker. But really, this is about giving you an opportunity to ask us questions, anything you want about our product, about our new marker, about markers in general, about us. It's really just a Q&A for you to get your questions answered in this kind of a format, live face-to-face with all of us. My name's John Darland. I am the president and CEO of Global Creative, the founder and creator of OLO markers, along with our really amazing team here in the US and our partners overseas in Japan. A little background on us. We've been, myself and several members of my team have been in the marker business, art supply business, for about 20 years with a previous company. I'm sure many of you have heard of Copic markers, but we're the ones who brought Copic into the US back in 1999 and distributed that product very successfully for about a 20-year period. And then we had a separation in business there, and decided to close that company, and we started a new company called Global Creative. And about a year or so ago, we started working on the OLO project, and as you all know, we're getting ready to launch it into the marketplace in July. Let's go over the marker a little bit. I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about why we decided to make a new marker. Over the period of the last couple of decades, we've met with and made friends with a lot of people who use markers and who do art in general and graphic design, product design. And there are always issues with markers that would come up over and over and over again. We're talking about ink flow, consistency, how markers they'll work great for a while, and then they, after you use them, they start to get less and less ink flow until eventually they're scratchy for a while, and then they run out of ink. So we started to get all kinds of feedback over the years from all kinds of users of markers, and we started to just take notes about all of the things that we would like to change about markers, including ink flow, including just the way the brush feels, simple things about how do I tell what nib is on each end of my marker. And so we started to build this checklist of all of these things that we wanted to try to improve. And it was quite a big checklist, and some of the things were really, really difficult to overcome. We weren't sure, we've had markers have been around for 30, 40 years as we know them today, and maybe actually even a little bit longer. And they're all made the same way. They all have that felt material inside that absorbs the ink, and that's what holds it in place, and that's what allows for the ink to flow out of your marker. And so to overcome the ability to use more ink in the marker and to get better ink flow was a huge technological challenge. So through our connections in Japan, we're working with a team of people and a group of people who have been in this industry for also a very long time. We discovered somebody who had some technology that they use in a different industry that we wanted to try and use. And that technology was perfected for us for use inside of the OLO marker. And it really helped us solve two of those major issues, which is being able to use more ink. Typically 65, 70% of ink is used in a marker. The rest of it's kind of trapped inside. And with OLO, you're going to get over 90%, over 92% of the ink actually out of the marker. And because we're using this free ink flow system, which I think you've all seen, Elisa's showing it there on the screen, we actually can manage the ink flow as well, because it's a contained system. So you're going to start to use your marker, and all the way until it's the ink is used up, you're going to have good, consistent ink flow the entire time, which is a really big deal, and it was a really, really big challenge but we've got it, and we're really thankful for our partners. They've done an amazing job helping us put it together. Some of the other things that we've heard over the years were, I bought a marker and it's got a brush and a chisel, or a chisel and a bullet. And so often people buy a marker and they say, oh, I never use the chisel, I never use the brush, or I never use the bullet, I only use this. And I think most of you know that most people use the brush most of the time. And a lot of the comments are, we don't use the chisel at all, we never take the cap off. So we thought, okay, how can we deal with this? And that's where we came up with the idea of, let's make a marker that's customizable by the user, so that you can make your marker however you want to make it. You don't have to buy 2 or 3 markers. You don't have to buy a marker that has a chisel and a fine tip, or a brush and a chisel. You can buy or customize an OLO marker to have 2 brushes, to have a brush and a chisel, to have a brush, and eventually probably, I'm not going to give you any dates yet because I'm not sure, but we will be coming out with a bullet tip nib, and potentially others as well, or just the option potentially to replace nibs with different shapes. So with OLO, you have the ability and the freedom to really customize your product, to make it work for you the way that you need it to work, not the way that we just offer it to you. I think it's going to add some real value to people in just getting more value, I guess, out of the product that you have in your hand. The other really cool thing, kind of a side effect that happens with this, is I can now partner up, and Elisa, if you can show, take a marker apart. I can take, lots of times you use 2 colors together regularly. Maybe somebody has a particular skin tone combination, or I don't know, a flower color that they always use a base for, and then they use something for a shadow. I can now put 2 markers together that allow me to do that image, to use that color combination, and they're back to back on the same marker with the same nib that you want to use. It's really, really convenient. And for those of you that travel, or you'd like to take your markers with you, for the time being, we have 128 colors. You can reduce that down to 64 markers that you carry if you want to use the same nib, because you can just combine the 2 colors together in any combination you want. Or maybe you want chisel with some colors. For example, your blender, maybe you want a chisel because you want to use it a little more firmly. The whole point is it's your marker, your way. It's how you want to use it, and that's something that we came up with in the design for OLO. We will have there will be ways to personalize your marker as well. The OLO ring in between the 2 markers, we thought it would be really cool if people could add different colors. So we'll offer about 3 different colors of rings to get started, and then we also are going to offer handles. So say you just want to use a brush marker, and you want a handle to attach to your marker in a different shape or size. We'll eventually come up with lots of different shapes and sizes, but we have a standard handle that you can attach to the back of your marker if that feels better in your hand. Then you have that option. So there's lots of different improvements with OLO. The other really, really important piece to a marker for people who want to use the brush is the way that the brush feels, the control that a brush has. A lot of people are afraid of a brush because of being able to control it. The OLO brush, we feel like, is top notch. We feel like we have a better brush than any other marker on the market today. The feedback that we've gotten from everybody that's tried it and used it has been extremely positive. And we have the best nib manufacturer working with us in the world, out of Japan. So we're very, very happy with how the brush came out and excited for you guys to try it. Let's see, I think that's most of the things I wanted to hit on as far as about the marker itself. I'll let you guys come back to me with more questions. I see in the chat here there's a question. I can just hit these as they come up. Somebody's asking about is the OLO using the same alcohol-based ink as Copic? It's not exactly the same because we're not using the same manufacturer of certain dyes or whatever, but it's a very, very high quality, high-end alcohol-based ink. And it's dyes. So all markers, doesn't matter if it's Copic or any of the other alcohol markers out there, they're all alcohol-based dyes. But there are definitely quality differences. The quality differences are in the quality of alcohol that's being used, and also the quality of dyes, and then the really important thing is consistency of color, which is a huge challenge for any marker manufacturer. The source of color changes often, and so it's a real challenge for any marker company to continue to have consistency in their color range, because if a certain blue dye goes out or a certain green dye goes out, it's very difficult then to replicate that ink over and over again. So good marker manufacturers have the ability to do that, and that's where we are. We work with really, really good companies who make really, really good high quality ink. So how well does the ink and brush nib hold up in extreme temperatures, especially below freezing? Well, it's alcohol based, so alcohol won't freeze as fast as water. I don't really know how to answer that question, other than it's going to hold up as good or better than any other alcohol-based marker you've used in freezing cold temperatures. Big part of it's going to be also the air tightness of the caps. Probably could help. And again, everything about this marker is of the highest quality. We know who our competition is, and we are producing a product that's at the highest level of quality. So, yes?
I was wondering, I know you're initially coming out with 128 colors.
Yes.
Do you anticipate that you will be adding to the colors?
Yeah, great question, Betty. We are for sure. What we did with our first range of color palette is we looked at several different things. We looked at creating popular colors. We also looked at trying to fill some holes in other color brands that didn't exist, because we know there's a lot of people out there who use lots of different markers. And so we didn't want to just create the same thing again, because there's always, we don't think people are going to throw away their markers and then just buy new ones from us. Often there's a transition period where hopefully you're going to try our markers, you're going to like them, you're going to add them to the other markers that you use, or maybe you'll replace them over time. But we wanted to be kind of respectful about the investment you already made, and then try to fill some holes with some different colors that maybe don't exist. And then as we move forward, we really want to get user feedback and find out what colors people use. So we'll be asking your opinions through social media, through our mailing list. The people who are purchasing OLO and become founding members after, I guess that ends tomorrow, we'll have some good heavy weight in voting on what colors we produce next. But we will continue to increase our color palette over time for sure. Great question. There's another one here about somebody asked about when you're using Copic, it sometimes blurbs or flows out quickly, and you have to take the cap off on the other end to stop that. That is part of traditional marker technology. What happens is that air gets in there and gets trapped and does weird things. because of the way you have to make a marker. Traditionally with OLO, because we have a sealed closed system, you're not going to get that same blurb. You're not going to get the same weird air pressure things that happen, you know, when you fly with it in an airplane or it's shipped to you. It's gonna do that. I'm not gonna say it's never gonna do that because we haven't used them enough. It's a new product to know, but the technology that we created, it should drastically reduce that, if not eliminate it altogether. That is another huge concern of marker users that we tried to eliminate. Let's see, I'll go through some more questions here. Why choose a chisel over a bullet nib? It's all that nibs are all a personal preference, right? I mean, it's just, you know, a chisel you can do quickly over larger surfaces. A lot of people who do quick sketches or renderings for product design or car design or something like that, they're whipping out, they want thick lines to create shapes and stuff, and they want to use that firm chisel nib. It's easy to control. You know, but some people might want to color in small areas, and so the bullet tip might work better for you. The chisel nib on OLO, it's a really, really nice nib. It's a firm nib. It feels soft, but it's firm enough that you can really, really get sharp lines out of the tip of your chisel nib. You can turn the chisel nib to get different lines and shapes. So again, that's all about personal preference and how you're using the product. Some people shy away from a brush and go to a chisel nib or a bullet nib because they're afraid, because the brush is flexible. I think once you guys try this brush nib, you're really, really going to like how controlled it is. Paper recommendations. Really, all alcohol-based markers, you're gonna want to use the same kinds of paper. A tight paper, like if you're just messing around and practicing, color copy paper is a good option. You know, we will have our own brand of marker paper, but there's a lot of good marker papers out there, and the key thing is just to use something that's not super loose. Like, for example, you know, watercolor paper is something that is it's pretty loose and it absorbs a lot. And typically people shy away from using watercolor paper with markers. However, we've had several people use OLO on watercolor paper, and they love it because we have just a little bit more ink flow than other markers. And so it allows you to work on watercolor paper really, really nicely when the typical traditional marker would be much more of a challenge. But you know, check back with us. We'll keep trying to put more and more out about what kind of papers to use with markers. But many of you are familiar with markers already, and so you could stick with the things that you use because it's an alcohol-based marker. Yeah, OLOs will travel well on flights, for sure. And will the brush nib come out of the barrel with use like they do with Copics? I mean, they shouldn't, obviously, and it depends on your Copic too. I mean, if it's an older Copic and your nib is falling out, you know, it might just be from a lot of use. But the nibs, Elisa, can you pull it? Can you pull a nib out of an OLO for us? The nib in OLO is a little bit different. I don't know if you know, sometimes brush nibs on other markers have got this crystallization problem. You can look at the OLO nib. If you look at other markers, the nib is much longer because it's got to penetrate way down inside into that felt kind of material inside the marker. With OLO, the nib is much shorter. You don't have to do that. It's got a much shorter neck, and it's one piece, so you're not going to get the crystallization, and there shouldn't be any issues with nibs falling out at all. You know, some people are asking about the bullet nib replacement. When is it going to be available? Hopefully sooner than later. I would say by the end of the year. You know, but we should know more specifically about timing on the bullet nib. within the next couple of months, and we'll just make sure you get on our email list and check back on the website, and we'll be making announcements on that. We know it's something that people like, and people want, and we definitely want to add it as soon as we possibly can. It's just becomes overwhelming if we add too much in the beginning to get it going. So, but we hear you, and we're going to do it for sure. OLO is, Elise said, let's see, I don't have, it's a little bit longer than a Copic sketch marker. Somebody's asking about the size and length of OLO, and it's a little bit larger in diameter than a Chow marker, for example. But we did I met with in Japan a lot of people who've made markers over the years with some pretty big companies who have been in the art supply business for a long time, decades and decades, and researched and looked at thank you, Lisa, their research on hand fatigue and shape and those kinds of things. And if everybody notices, OLO's round. It's not a different shape. And the research told us, even though we wanted to make some really cool shape out of a marker, that it was so much nicer to have for people's hand to be in this diameter range and to be round, because everybody holds a marker different for drawing. For the brush, it doesn't matter so much. When you start using a chisel, you have to give people the freedom to be able to hold it however they want to, and not force somebody to hold a particular shape a certain way. So that's why it's round. That's why it's the diameter that it is. The length, I think you'll find it feels really nice in your hand. Another person is asking about, is it a single side or two joined together? And it's two joined together. They twist apart. Sorry, I'm just reading through some of the other questions here. We had a question about what's the white marker. That's a great question. That is what everybody traditionally knows is the blender marker. We made it white bodied. That was a pretty cool design, and it really helps you quickly identify your blender. And actually, I'll point that out too. Elisa looks like she's putting out the three different colors here for you guys to see, but you'll see white, black, and gray. The white body is your blender. The black body is the brush nib, and the gray body is the chisel nib. More than likely, light gray will be the bullet nib. So for everybody who uses markers, it's a 50-50 shot. You pull the marker off and you get the nib that you want. With OLO, it's an instant visual. You know exactly what nib you get just by looking at the marker from a distance. The black side, you're going to pull the cap off. It's going to be the brush. So that's why we made these color combinations. And plus, we think it makes the marker look pretty cool. It's a really fun design. And again, you can mix and match. And so you get kind of a variety of look of colors. But I know now I've got two brushes. I've got a chisel and a blender, and I've got a chisel and a brush. Without even taking the caps off, I can just see it instantly. So. Let's see. So we've got another question about combines about 3 1/4 for one marker. Yeah, okay, so it's doing the math there on length. We have a question about refilling. So that's another place that we, another challenge, I guess, we tried to tackle with markers in general. Refilling with traditional refill methods is messy, and it's pretty time consuming. And the challenge with refilling a marker on a marker like OLO is that it's a contained system. So in order for us to have that consistent ink flow and to be able to use all of the ink inside the marker, there was no way for us to like pour ink in. So what we have and what we think is a really great solution for people is a replacement cartridge. And so Elisa, if you could tip that guy over so people can see what it looks like. So you maybe put a marker with a nib in it next to it so people can see them together laying down. There's a little cap on the top of that replacement cartridge that just pops off. And so what you're going to do is when your marker runs out of ink, you're just going to pull the nib out of the used marker. Just going to pull the nib out of the used marker, and then you're going to pull the cap off. And then put that, you'll just put that old nib back in the new cartridge, and you're going to use the old cap from your old body, and you're done. And so that's the replacement cartridge system for OLO. So you're instantly back at it. And also, I think you guys maybe know this from hearing about OLO, but that half of a marker holds as much usable ink as an entire other traditional marker like a Copic sketch marker or Chow. You're basically getting 2 markers worth of ink in one OLO marker. So it's extremely of high value, which leads me to price point. I'll go through this for you guys so you have an idea of the costs. So people who are buying now at the founder package levels is significantly reduced in price, but the actual retail prices are still really, really good. So for a double-ended marker, if you buy a double-ended marker from us, it's $6.99 is the retail price point. If you buy a single brush, just the brush side, which you can do if you want, you don't have to buy a double-ended marker, because say you want to just buy a bunch of different brushes and connect them together to make your own combinations of markers, those will be $3.80. The chisel side is a little less expensive, $3.15. The replacement cartridge, again, which keep in mind, that has as much ink as an entire other traditional marker, pretty much any other brand. That's $2.49. And then there'll be, the connectors are like 25 cents each. We'll have probably packs of them in different colors and stuff that you can buy. And then the handles will be around a couple dollars each, depending on the size and shape. So that's the general pricing for our markers. So you're essentially getting 2 of any marker. So let's say the marker sells for anywhere from $4 to $6. So let's call it $5. You're for $6.99, you're getting potentially $10 worth of ink for the $6.99. So it's actually a substantial savings, a lot less expensive than buying other traditional markers, and you have a marker that's very, very high quality. Somebody's asking about an indicator to know when the ink is running low, ready to replace. There isn't, and we looked at it for sure. For example, we all really liked the way that these our very first prototypes looked. They're clear, you can kind of see the ink inside, it's kind of cool, but you can't do that with an alcohol-based marker. They're dyes, and so as soon as you have the ink exposed in there, the colors start to change and degrade pretty rapidly with the UV. And so we thought, oh, maybe we'll make a little window on the side. The problem is you can't really see into a single window very well to see if ink is low. And so it didn't make any sense to do those things. So we recommend that you have replacement cartridges, or have double-ended the same. You've got tons of ink in there, and you'll find that, again, depending on what kind of paper you use, these markers are going to last a really long time. Let's see, if you have an OLO brush nib marker and decide you would rather use a chisel nib for that color, are the nibs interchangeable? Yeah, you can just swap the entry point is the same size. So you can pull a chisel out and put it into the black body marker. So if you prefer to have all black colored markers and you want brushes, you can really customize these to however you want. But then of course you won't necessarily know if you when you pull your cap off what marker you have. But that's completely up to you, and it's a great question. So these markers are super highly customizable. Our intention is to make the bullet nib the same. It's a bit of a challenge, but we want to do the same thing with the fine tip nib as well. Great question. Are the bodies recyclable? Great question, Bridget. Currently, no. No alcohol marker bodies are recyclable because of the ink and stuff inside. Unfortunately, that's the case. We really want to be as sustainable as we possibly can. The challenges with markers specifically, you can't use like recycled plastic and that kind. Nobody can, because of the way that the technology is, the way that it exists currently today. But all the other things that we're going to try to do, the packaging, even our retail displays, when we have those, we're gonna do all of the other things we possibly can to be as sustainable as we possibly can outside of the product itself, because currently there is no way to make a marker other than using plastic, virgin plastic. There's no way around it currently. But we are innovative, and we're working with some really great companies, and our intention is to keep pushing the envelope to see what we can do. And eventually, we're confident the technology will be out there to allow us to be even more sustainable, even with the plastic that we use. So it just takes time, but we are definitely conscious of it. Can we buy multiple cartridge replacements as a pack, or if it's a color we use a lot? Yeah, potentially. We haven't gotten that far, Lisa. The shopping experience that you have for OLO will be different in July when we launch the actual shopping site that's outside of the pre-sale. It will allow you to basically go through and customize your marker however you want to do it. We're going to offer suggestions for color assortments and stuff like that. But at that point, you'll be able to buy multiple cartridges. And as far as in stores, we're not sure exactly how we're going to have those presented. But my guess is we'll come up with some kind of packs to allow people to buy multiples. And we love feedback. So if people out there are wanting different things, just keep emailing us and asking us, and if it makes sense, we're going to do it. When you buy a marker, you get 2 cartridges, or you just buy a cartridge without a nib for a refill? So when you buy a double-ended marker, you're going to get it. It's going to have the nibs, the caps, everything is going to come together. If you buy a standard marker, and typically the standard marker is going to be your standard brush chisel marker, and that's probably how you're going to find them in retail stores, because it's just so common. That's typically what people want. If you come to the OLO website, you're going to be able to customize it. And so when you order your marker off of the website, and if you want a brush and a brush, or a chisel and a chisel, you're going to get the parts and pieces to have a complete full marker, with the caps, with the nibs, with everything. But you also can just buy the replacement cartridge without a nib and a cap. And you can also just buy a single marker with just a brush or just a chisel. So it's really going to be whatever you want. Um, looks like that one got answered. Let's see. Some alcohol markers tend to squeak when using the brush nib. Do the markers do that? I don't think so. It could be the kind of paper with the other markers, but I don't, we've used them quite a bit, and I can't say that I have thought about it squeaking at all. So I don't think that's an issue. For those, so somebody's asking about the pre-order, the best value package, they'll be getting double-ended marker with a separate refill, or you'll be getting a single cartridge with a nib and refill cartridge without a nib. So when you order the Platinum Founder package, you're getting all 128 colors of marker, and you get to choose if you want a brush and a chisel combination. It's going to come to you that way, or do you want a brush and a brush combo, or do you want a chisel and a chisel combo? You get to choose. And then because you're ordering the Platinum package, you're actually going to get a free matching or a free refill replacement cartridge for all 128 colors. And you get to choose if you want that in black or if you want it in gray. So you're getting all of that. If you want to store use nibs, the only way to really keep a nib going well is just make sure you put in something that's airtight and sealed. You can keep your nib for a pretty long time if you do that. You can always try to recharge it with with alcohol. Just drip alcohol on it, or some blender solution or something like that. So somebody asked about how their markers are going to come from the Platinum package. So your markers are going to come in a rigid cardboard box. We used cardboard instead of plastics. We're trying not to use plastic as much as possible. And for the Platinum package, it's going to come in two of those. You're going to have two 64 batches of markers in an OLO box. It's easy to handle, and we think it looks really nice. Great question. Anybody have any other questions? These have been great questions. I really appreciate it. The pre-order, they come in early, mid, or late July. Our hard launch for OLO is the kind of the summer shows, Anime Expo, Comic Con, which is like the first week of July. So right now the plan is that the first major production run batch is going to get to us right at the end of June. So hopefully we'll be shipping those out in the first and second weeks of July to you guys. We'll get them out the door as quickly as we possibly can.
Does it matter how the markers are stored, horizontally or vertically?
Great question, and no, it doesn't. You can store them however you want to store them. Yep. Are we going to offer storing solutions, marker holders? We are, yeah. We're kind of in the process now of thinking through that. We really want to, we'll probably offer on our website, the intention right now is to offer kind of a bare bones solution. You're just getting markers in a bag, basically, just to keep costs down. Maybe you don't need it. We don't want to have a lot of waste. We don't want to have a bunch of plastic you have to throw away. And then we'll probably offer a few different levels of packaging. Do you want a rigid board box? Do you want this cool, maybe this leather pouch, or maybe this metal stand? We haven't come up with all of the solutions for that. We'll be asking you guys to give us feedback and ideas, but we'll have some solutions when we first start, and then we'll continue to improve on those and make better ones as time goes on. But you'll be able to get those from the website. We'll give several different options. Color chart is offered as sheet of boxes. Where can we get the circle color chart? We'll just keep checking back on the website. We'll try to get everything up there. If we don't get it all up there on the pre-sale website, we will have everything available on the full-scale website, which we launch in July. Anything else? We've got a little more time. If people have more questions, you can put it in the chat, unmute yourself, say hi, and ask a question if you want to. If anybody that has tried OLO, if you want to, if you have any comments, some other things to add, feel free to jump on. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to do that if there's anybody out there. Somebody's asking about refilling the markers. So yeah, and why is refilling a traditional marker a little bit different over time? And that is because that material inside a traditional marker degrades over time, and the more dry it gets over time, there's like little capillaries in there that kind of harden. And so by the time you're refilling your traditional marker up after several times, in the end, what you end up doing is mostly just getting ink into the nib and down the neck of that nib, which is why you often find yourself refilling more and more often the more you use your traditional marker. So with OLO, again, you don't have that issue. It's just an instantaneous replacement, and you're off and running, and you have a lot more ink to use. Yeah, it's a good question. Question about because the ink flows better, do you use ink faster? You could, and you may not. It's a good question, Jennifer. So for example, with a lot of markers, it doesn't matter which brands, it takes several passes to get a smooth coloring. So maybe you got to have, you're going to color a circle in, it's going to take you like 4 or 5 strokes, and then it's really smooth. With OLO, it might only take you 2 strokes because you've got a little bit better ink flow, and so you've got a really, really nice smooth color without using as much ink. So it really depends on how you color, how you use the product that makes a difference. But if you obviously if the ink flows a little bit more, you're going to use the ink up a little bit faster. But still, because we have so much ink, you shouldn't notice any difference. You should notice your markers lasting you longer than they ever have. Looks like we've got most of the questions answered. Anybody have a question that we missed, kind of going through the chats here? I think if not, that's fantastic. We want to just encourage everybody here, reach out to us. We're available. We have people here who can answer your questions pretty quickly. We should answer you almost instantly. And we'll take your questions anytime. You can call us and ask questions, email us. We're excited to launch this new product and excited to see how people use them. And yeah, another question about the platinum package. Yeah, all of the platinum package deal ends tomorrow, the 31st. So from April 1st through the end of June, we're still going to be offering the pre-sale ability. Everything's just going to cost a little bit more, and you're not going to get the free refills with the platinum package. They'll be available at a discounted price, but they won't be free anymore. So, for the people who've committed ahead of time, waiting for so long, by the end of the day tomorrow, that really special deal is ending at that point, so that they get their full benefit of ordering early. So yeah, great question. Yeah, thanks, Ladybug. we are, it has been a long time in the works, and we're super, super excited about it. We love markers, we love art, we love creativity. We love to see what people are going to do with this product. Again, we really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for joining us. And we might even try to do another one of these in the next month or so. Maybe a couple of more between now and the launch. So you can come back again, or let people know about it, and share the information, and so they can come ask us questions as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. As people are leaving, I'll answer questions quickly because there's some more coming in. Blender markers, you're going to get one in the Platinum set because you're getting one of everything. We're going to be selling in stores for sure. We don't know all of the stores that are going to carry the product, but you know, to start off with, you can get them at you'll be able to get it at olomarker.com, and then we'll be slowly building out our partner resale partners over time, for sure. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care.